When you bring the dead back to life, anything can happen. This is a journey into the unknown. A world of constant danger. Dinosaurs ruled the Earth for millions of years. They were master survivors. Now mankind will try to master them. These creatures are bigger, faster, and hungrier than you can imagine. Even the most carefully planned experiment can suddenly turn to chaos. And the slightest mistake could be your last. This is Dino Lab. Dave Dawes has been hired for one of the most dangerous and exciting jobs on the planet. This is Dave's first day at Dino Lab. He knows everything there is to know about wild animals.
Look into the scanner.
And he can't wait to meet his first dinosaur.
Dino handler, go left.
Dino Lab blasts paleontology into the 21st century by bringing to life real flesh and blood dinosaurs. D-Day is about to begin. Dave's first Dino Day. Not exactly just another day at the office. Dino Lab works with beasts whose power has not yet been fully measured and conducts experiments designed by the world's leading scientists.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. I wouldn't get too close to that guy. His behavior's a little unpredictable. And his morning breath.
Dave has been dreaming about T-Rex since he was a child. Dino Lab is his dream job.
Well, this is where you'll be working today. Experiment floor number 3. Workable area of 1,000 square meters and 20 meters high. It's huge, isn't it?
Wow.
Although some of our dinos fill it pretty easily.
No amount of experience can prepare an animal handler for the larger-than-life world of Dino Lab.
Well, let me introduce you to our team. We're working with the finest team of animal handlers ever assembled.
The big lion.
The team of dino handlers has been recruited from the world's biggest zoos and deepest jungles.
Guys, this is Dave. He'll be starting with us today. So take good care of him. All right. See you later, Dave.
All right, thank you. Hey.
Ever get close to a lion, Dave?
Many times?
Scary?
Not really.
Good. To a T-Rex, a lion is like a mouse. One single bite. Ready?
Sure.
Let's go in.
All right, thanks.
Every member of Dave's team is a rare breed, the perfect match for the dinosaurs they handle.
Good morning. All right. Let's get started.
Today's first experiment will help solve a mystery. Was T-Rex a predator or a scavenger?
T-Rex was one of the last surviving dinosaurs and one of the biggest meat-eating dinosaurs ever known within the dinosaur world. And the question of whether or not it was a scavenger, so feeding on previously dead carcasses, or an active predator is a major question. The whole ecosystem, the lifestyle of what it was doing at the time and how it fit into the rest of the animal and plant population rests on some of these fundamental questions, many of which are not testable with just fossils.
Scavengers need powerful teeth and jaws to crush and eat bones. However, the fine, sharp teeth of meat-eating predators would shatter on bone. Dino Lab has created an experiment to safely test T-Rex's teeth. If it will cooperate.
Full power in the fences.
High-voltage shocks are designed to stop aggression, like a stun gun.
Are we getting all his vitals?
But there can be lethal side effects.
What do you see?
Nothing. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
T-Rex is back in action. Dino Lab team is now ready to see if T-Rex had the bone-chomping power of a scavenger.
This is a Komodo dragon skull.
Marie-Josée Limoges is the chief veterinarian at the Granby Zoo. Her patients include elephants, lions, and polar bears.
The skull of reptiles and birds differs from that of mammals in that they're much more mobile. I don't know if you see that in dinosaurs.
The skull on T-Rex is massive. Most other carnivorous dinosaurs have very slender, bird-like skulls, are very thin and pointed, and the bones are very, very thin, almost paper thin in places. But when we get to T-Rex, there's an upper jaw right there.
That's huge.
So the size of it, all this bone is here.
Very
just
solid.
It's raw, it's solid bone just to support these massive teeth.
Right. Well, we do see that in some carnivores, mammals. The Tasmanian devil, for one, has a very dense, thick bone structure like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it a scavenger or?
It is a scavenger.
The pressure sensor is carefully calibrated by scientists while the animal handlers prepare the bait.
Hook up the sensor.
The sensor, now wrapped in meat, will measure the maximum jaw force T-Rex could generate with its crushing teeth, massive jaw, and powerful musculature.
Lower away.
We can look at bite force by looking at its biomechanics of the entire skull. And this requires looking at all the different joints in the skull, all the different bones, all the different muscle reconstructions, and see if we can come up with an idea of what the skull was doing in life.
See how hard this guy can bite. Lift the bait. Let's see if it bites harder.
The sensor is not reading the power range required for a scavenger. T-Rex is now biting into the bait with its full strength. The sensor is starting to overload.
Drop it now!
T-Rex has proved it has the muscle power and bite required for scavenging on massive bones.
These guys would have no problem picking up a polar bear.
The polar bear weighs as much as 1,500 pounds, an easy prey for T-Rex.
Just picking it up and even giving it a small toss in the air.
T-Rex flies into a rage, furious that there is no tasty marrow at the heart of the sensor.
Somebody's gonna have to go in there and retrieve the sensor.
Dave, get in there and get the sensor.
Are you serious? Okay. Just keep him busy.
Dave's colleagues have been testing his courage. Now they know he can be trusted in the face of any danger.
Okay.
Okay, folks, let's clean up this mess and we'll set up for the sauropod experiments.
The biomechanics of T-Rex's very powerful jaw and colossal neck muscles would make it the perfect scavenger. The body of a young T-Rex is a total contrast, almost a different animal.
The juveniles seem to be very fast-footed, slender-skulled, slender teeth, very delicate, but very highly predatory-looking animals. But when we get to the full adults, where they get these big bulldog faces, massive skulls, massive necks, and really massive teeth, we can make a good case that the younger adolescent T-Rexes were more predatory, and that the older, more mature T-Rexes were transforming or tending into a more scavenging mode of life. Is there any comparable animal like this today?
Well, actually, yes, the lion is a very good comparison, because in the lion pride, the females and the younger animals, which are comparatively smaller and lighter and faster, they're the ones who hunt. And the big male lions come in after the hunt is over, and basically they eat the killed animals, so they're being scavengers in a sense.
The fleet-footed young T-Rex was a predator, and the massive muscular adult was more of a scavenger. Dino Lab's experiments have finally resolved the conflicting evidence that has caused so much debate. Dave has participated in a landmark experiment, but he has at least one other important lesson to learn on his first day at Dino Lab. There are good reasons why it's forbidden to park in the Dino Transit area. The next experiment is a big one, involving a dinosaur that dwarfs even T-Rex.
Dave,
Yeah.
we need the truck.
Oh, sure. Is there anything else I can do?
Yeah, clean the floor.
Okay.
Argentinosaurus takes up a lot of space. It's a mobile power plant fueled by entire forests of vegetation.
Ready? Open the airlock.
Argentinosaurus is as large and heavy as a fully loaded 737 at takeoff. It has to eat nearly 2 tons of vegetation every day.
Sauropods are familiar to many of us as the long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs. Some of them were relatively small, about the size of a rhino, but many of them attained enormous sizes.
Today's experiment will test the king of the sauropods. Did Argentinosaurus use its long neck to feed on many plants without needing to move its massive body?
Argentinosaurus is particularly special among sauropods in that it is the largest sauropod and, in fact, the largest dinosaur that we currently know of.
Paleontologists have traditionally calculated that sauropod necks were too heavy to lift far above ground level. Today, Dino Lab is going to test this theory using a cherry picker loaded with ferns to entice Argentinosaurus to lift its neck as high as possible. It easily reaches the height of a 2-story home. It is still lifting its neck at 3 stories.
If the neck is at the level of the shoulders or 6 stories in the air, this will have a big effect on what types of food sauropods were able to feed upon. And that's why the question of sauropod neck mobility is so important to sauropod ecology.
Okay, keep lifting. Up. Up. Up.
It has stopped. Has it reached the upper limit? Or is Argentinosaurus distracted by the scientists in the master control room?
Hello there.
These scientists happily remember the hungry giant is not a carnivore. Dave is kicking himself for knocking over a bucket at such a crucial moment. But he accidentally added a new dimension to the experiment. How far to the side could Argentinosaurus stretch its neck?
Okay, swing the bucket to the left.
Modern animals can flex their necks in very complicated ways, which we don't obviously see in their bones.
Like these modern animals, sauropods had the ability to swing their long necks from side to side and could raise them to spectacular heights. This greatly increased the food they could reach without having to move their massive body.
To extend that feeding envelope even further, one could also imagine sauropods rearing up on their hind limbs. And that would, if you rear a sauropod up on the hind limbs, let's say the back is at 45 degrees plus a 30-degree incline for the neck, you can imagine these sauropods feeding at extremely high tree heights.
But there's a price to pay for this ability to reach greater heights. The pressure needed to pump blood all the way up to the elevated brain could damage veins and arteries.
Look at that.
Another aspect that speaks to this problem is sauropod brain size. Sauropods have, in fact, some of the smallest brains relative to their body size of any dinosaur. And their brains were absolutely very small as well, so they didn't have a lot of brain matter to support with the blood.
All of my anatomy, all of our veins, have shunts inside them, little valves that keep the blood from flowing in a backwards direction. The blood in my feet has to get back up to my heart, which is not so unlike putting blood into the head of a sauropod when it's standing up.
Valves, located at regular intervals along veins, prevent blood from flowing backward and greatly reduce the pressure required to push blood to extreme heights.
Okay, move the sauropod.
Paleontologists have always believed Argentinosaurus grew so large to scare away predators. But how exactly can it defend itself against a fleet-footed predator like the young T-Rex? Will size be enough?
Raise the collar.
A special harness, like a football tackle block, has been built to hold the Argentinosaurus so it can't fall off the giant treadmill. Now we'll see if it runs or stands and fights. Dave played with toy dinosaurs when he was a kid. He can't believe he's standing so close to this gigantic sauropod.
Look out!
Thanks.
Yeah, just watch your back.
The Argentinosaurus's gigantic tail can be a lethal weapon.
Bring the projector. Quietly.
For the next experiment, one of Dino Lab's favorite tools is called into service.
Go help the techs with the projector.
Okay.
To avoid injuring Dino Lab's valuable dinosaurs, the scientists used the hologram generator to simulate a rampaging T-Rex.
Fire up the Holorex.
Many sauropods would have relied on their sheer size as a defense against predators, but that size would have also hampered their ability to escape those predators when threatened.
Don't get too close.
Argentinosaurus is far too heavy and slow to outrun a T-Rex. But it has a secret weapon, its tail.
What's pretty exciting about the length and dimensions of some of these really long sauropod tails is that, at least in theory, it fits a model that they could actually break the speed of sound. much like a snapping whip.
If that was a real T-Rex, it would have been knocked out by this mighty tail.
Well, that's enough for this morning. Coffee break for the sauropod.
Keep your hand with this.
Argentinosaurus has a long, flexible neck for feeding. Even though it moves its body as little as possible to conserve energy, it can be amazingly athletic if it needs to rear up on its hind legs or crack its tail in self-defense. One daily problem at Dino Lab is traffic control. Dinosaurs must be kept apart at safe distances. The Stegosaurus is as volatile as nitroglycerin and completely unpredictable. Any unexpected sound or movement can set it off. The Stegosaurus lashes out in fear. Vets will have to examine the frightened dinosaur. Any injury could jeopardize the experiment scheduled for this afternoon.
You still with us, Dave?
I don't know what's up with me. I keep making stupid mistakes.
It's your first day. Relax.
What was that?
No, something was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Vehicles are not allowed to park in the dinosaur transit area. Dave will now understand why. These dinosaurs are powerful and dangerous at all times. Dave won't forget this lesson in a hurry, and his first day has barely begun.
Hey, Dave, why don't you grab a coffee? Join us.
No thanks. I already feel like I've had an overdose of caffeine this morning.
Must be the oxygen levels.
The oxygen?
Yeah, to replicate the conditions that the dinosaurs lived in, we pump up the oxygen levels in the lab.
Oh, I see.
Well, don't worry, just 10 minutes out in the city at peak hour, you'll be back to normal.
Excuse me. Dave?
Yes?
The vet could use some help in the pen.
Oh, sure.
Well, I hope so.
The security guard is breaking the bad news. He'll let the director decide whether to tell Dave now or wait until the end of the day.
Okay, thanks. I'll tell him later. Okay.
I was asked to, It's my first day. I don't really want to make any more goof-ups.
Never turn your back on them. And never touch their young.
Are they dangerous?
Not when they're sleeping.
Hypacrosaurus is most easily distinguished from other hollow-crested duckbills by the tall spines that stick out from its vertebrae and by the pointy form of the crest on its head. Most dinosaurs drop their eggs and abandon them to fend for themselves. Hypacrosaurus are of particular interest to scientists because recent discoveries show that adults nurture their young long after they hatch.
Is it dangerous now.
They're plant eaters. Come with me.
Hypacrisaurus is a plant eater, but so are gorillas, and Dave knows you don't want to go head-to-head with an angry ape.
One obvious advantage of living in a group is safety in numbers. Duck-billed dinosaurs are relatively plain animals. They don't have large horns. They don't obtain really large body sizes. So they have very, very few defenses from predators. So actually grouping together and living in herds or social groups may have been their way of keeping safe.
The veterinarian has completed her observations and is ready to perform an experiment on the unhatched egg. Nothing makes a nurturing dinosaur angrier than a threat to its egg. For a long time, scientists put forward theories that Hypacrisaurus's elongated nasal passages provided a heightened sense of smell. We now know they are used to communicate between members of the herd. This incubator is equipped with ultrasound sensors to analyze the unborn Hypacrisaurus. Dino Lab needs to evaluate how helpless the infant is at birth to understand the process of bonding and nurturing. While waiting for the egg to hatch, the scientists and dino handlers are going to explore the origins of flight. Paleontologists agree that birds evolved from dinosaurs, but the origin of flight still remains a mystery. One theory holds that animals with small, semi-developed wings could climb trees and glide down to the ground to catch their prey. To find out, we're going to experiment with one of the very first feathered dinosaurs, the Microraptor. We want to test how far it could glide from a tree branch to the ground. We will do this by using perches at different heights and flying a bait.
Okay? It's like fishing, all right? Just jig it, make it tantalizing. Yeah. That's it. Tease them.
Release the raptor.
Microraptor is a fairly new discovery of a dinosaur from China. It has feathers all over its body. It even has feathers that look like it could fly. It has wings on its arms and flight feathers on its legs that make it look like it could have 4 wings on the body. But it's pretty small. It's only about the size of a blue jay.
Okay. Fly the bait.
Good. That's good. Okay, not too much.
Well, I can tell you right away there is no modern animal equivalent to having 4 wings.
What about birds? Are there any birds that have like feathers on their legs that they use for flying?
Well, maybe not so much for flying. And no birds has a very long tail, but they do have long tail feathers. If you think of macaws, have very long tail feathers that they can use as a rudder.
Fly it a little slower.
Okay, not too much. Good. That's good. That's it. It's good.
This experiment supports the glider theory for the origin of flight. But what's missing? What do modern birds have that Microraptor lacks to be able to achieve true flight?
In modern birds, we see some things that are not here in this skeleton. There's a keel bone, which is the sternum in the bird, and that's where all the big muscles that bring the wings down attach, and that's not there. So to me, this animal would probably be more of a glider than a flyer.
Lift the raptor another 3 meters.
By raising the perch, we can test the limits of how far the Microraptor can glide.
Dave, move back 7 meters.
Okay. Back it up.
Increasing the distance of the bait forces the Microraptor to glide as far as it can.
Good.
It is essential not to frighten the raptor so that it will risk the longest possible glide.
Okay. Fly the bait. Nice and easy. Interesting.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
By accidentally jerking the bait higher than intended, Dave has enticed the Microraptor to flap its wings. It actually flies upwards. No one expected this.
If we just go by wing shape, it looks like they're more similar to a pigeon in terms of flapping and flying, not actually gliding as much.
But they do lack the attachment for the heavy flapping muscles.
Exactly. So they lack potentially all the horsepower to do it. And this is now the trade-off that we have to start considering. How big does the muscle have to be to drive that size of a wing?
Okay, let's move the bait way back. Let's find out once and for all if this raptor can really fly.
Backing up. Back up. Back up. Back up. A little more. A little more. Right there. Stop. 15 meters.
It is impossible to glide this distance. If the Microraptor wants to eat, it will have to flap its wings and fly.
Splendid. This is beautiful.
They were probably more gliders than flyers, but that doesn't preclude that they couldn't flap their wings a few times.
Microraptor is not a direct ancestor of modern birds, but these mixed skills of gliding and flying are still seen in birds today.
Is there anything alive today that might have the same kind of lifestyle?
The Cooper's hawk, which is a bird that lives in North American forests, is one that has short, broad wings, which enable it to maneuver within its forest environment. And so it alternates bits of flying with bits of gliding while it's hunting for its prey.
Well, that sounds like it could be a fairly good analogy or a good description of what Archaeopteryx and Microraptor may have done. A little bit of gliding and maybe the occasional flap or two, but primarily gliding with very short, stubby wings.
There is a lot of movement inside the Hypacrosaurus egg. The veterinarian has only seconds before it hatches to get this egg back to its mother, undetected. If the young has broken through its shell, the mother Hypacrosaurus will attack the handler in a blind fury. In Dino Lab, an amazing event is taking place. The Hypacrosaurus egg is about to hatch. If the mother is not present when it does, the parent-child nurturing Dino Lab is testing will not occur.
There is some evidence to suggest that duck-billed dinosaurs even engaged in parental care, or that they stayed with the young not only through the hatching period, but also after the eggs hatched themselves.
This is the first phase of a fascinating long-term experiment that will monitor development as the nesting progresses to independence.
Even after they had hatched and were nestlings, such as this dinosaur here, they still wouldn't have had fully developed limbs, and they would have had some trouble walking around. So this suggests that the parent dinosaurs would have had to bring food to the young while they were maintained in a nest.
We will leave the little family and go back to the experiment floor, where volatile Stegosauruses are being tested. The earliest Stegosauruses were heavily armored, with rows of defensive spikes down their back. The spikes evolved into big plates that are too spongy to have any defensive value. Trading long spikes for thin plates begs the question, what were Stegosaurus plates used for? We are going to test 2 males to see if the size of the plates causes psychological intimidation. A good old-fashioned bluff.
Bring in the second male.
The 2 males are almost identical in size. Neither has a physical advantage. They have no reason to attack or be intimidated. Before we increase the size of the plates on one male, let's perform the same experiment with a female.
Bring in the female.
Another possible purpose of these large Stegosaurus plates is that they serve to attract mates, just like elaborate plumage does in birds. Neither of these males has any particular physical advantage, so they do not spark a decisive reaction from the female.
Darken the glass.
Now it's time to test the bluff value of bigger, brighter plates.
Let's get him into costume.
To equip one of the males with larger plates, we need to put him to sleep. When he wakes up, he will be transformed. It's the ultimate dino makeover. The Dino Lab team is studying how Stegosauruses make use of their plates.
These plates are lining up and down the back. You see just how thin they are. And the plates themselves are completely spongy bone. They're very brittle for bone. They don't seem to be very defensive.
Dino Lab is carrying out its own version of cosmetic surgery, fitting the male Stegosaurus with enhanced plates that are much larger and more brightly colored. Orange is a popular warning of aggression and indicator of sexual attraction throughout the animal kingdom.
We can look to modern birds today and many modern animals that have colors in their bodies, and they use these colors to speak to one another, either for mate choice or for combat choice, and also for anti-predation.
The dose of the stimulant is extremely sensitive. The Dino Lab team wants the Stegosaurus to wake quickly and be fully alert, but not before they have time to get to a safe distance.
Well, let's see how his buddy reacts.
Bigger colored plates send a strong signal to the other male. There is no doubt which one of these 2 is now dominant.
How about Mademoiselle?
The bigger colored plates send an equally strong signal to the female. If that glass was not so strong, she'd go straight through it. Now we know that the plates are an effective tool for signaling, both for mating and intimidation. But what happens when Stegosaurus come face to face with a real threat? Would the tail be an efficient defensive mechanism?
The motion of a tail tip is extremely difficult to do. If you look at other animals alive today that use tails for defense, things like iguanas, the best they can do is whip their tails around and hope that they'll hit their would-be predator. We think that Stegosaurs were much, much more accurate. The neurology of Stegosaurus is very different from the neurology that we think of in mammals today. All of our processing is in our brain.
Birds are different from mammals and have a different type of nervous system. If you chop the head off of a turkey, it can still run around and flap its wings.
Birds are descended from dinosaurs, and we think that some dinosaurs may have had a bird-like kind of neurology, and one animal in particular is Stegosaurus.
Probes have been inserted along the spine to measure electrical impulses. This will confirm whether the tail is controlled directly by the brain or is a nerve response like the knee-jerk reflex in humans. To stimulate the Stegosaurus's tail, we'll bring back a favorite gadget here at Dino Lab.
Bring in the Holorex.
The Stegosaurus will see the Holorex as a bloodthirsty predator and will be forced to flee or fight.
Fire him up. Move the Holorex closer. See what happens.
Is this tail wagging another bluff? Here in Dino Lab, the Stegosaurus is in a standoff with the Holorex. The Stegosaurus is much more agile than expected.
The brain in the head can only do some sort of fine-tuning control. I might say, flick a little bit more to the right or flick a little bit more to the left, but the spinal column in the hip region might be controlling most of the function of the tail.
Whoa.
The spinal cord is shooting electric impulses to the tail. Stegosaurus needs to hit something solid to shut down the signals, or the entire nervous system will go crazy.
Stop, stop! Calm that stake down!
Stegosaurus has scored a direct hit to the unfortunate Holorex, but it's still on a rampage.
Hold it! Twice in 1 hour could be fatal.
Dave's instincts kick in.
That's it. Over here! Over here! That's it, big guy.
If a Stegosaurus's concentration span is as short as a rhinoceros's, in 8 to 12 seconds, it will forget the Holorex ever existed.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Get it out of here!
The pacified Stegosaurus is led away. This experiment proves that its tail is no bluff. It is a deadly weapon controlled partly by the brain and partly by nerves in the spinal column. Dual control systems like this make the Stegosaurus's tail a highly effective weapon.
Hey, Dave, look, I've got some bad news for you. Come with me.
D-Day is over. Dave has made a few rookie mistakes, but he can't believe he has failed probation for the job he's dreamed about his entire life.
Our insurance will cover the damages, but if I were you, I wouldn't park here anymore.
Don't worry, I've learned my lesson.
One more thing. You are officially one of us now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dave has had a day he will never forget and is now a full member of the Dino Lab team.
Dinosaurs gave us our modern world. Dinosaurs are the reason why we have birds alive today. Dinosaurs are also the reason why we have the kinds of ecosystems that we fill, the complex ecosystems where we have lots of herbivores and lots of carnivores and scavengers and so forth. That whole ecology was established by dinosaurs. We just took it over after they became extinct.
Flesh and blood dinosaurs are endlessly fascinating. There are many more surprises in store for us here at Dino Lab.